It's the list and your boy at Fightful.com. With Jimmy Van and Sean Ross Sapp. They're on fire. Boom shakalaka.
200 strong.
What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. It is November 24th, 2021. So listen, your boy, number 234, brought to you by our friend Destiny FOMO. Follow her at twitter.com/Destiny FOMO. Gaming, wrestling, all kinds of fun stuff. Wonderful girl. We thank her for supporting us. Twitter.com/Destiny FOMO. You'll find all of her swell links. Jimmy, it's Thanksgiving week here. What do you have to be thankful for?
I'm thankful for that I have somebody working on Fightful, like Melissa. Melissa's done a great job with Fightful. Really, I'm so thankful to have her. I'm also thankful to have somebody that does Fightful work for me, like Camilo.
Yeah.
Camilo does a great job producing this podcast.
Yes,
he does really good. He's done a good job. I'm very thankful that I have somebody that does the hard work and the work ethic and the tireless work that Jeremy Lambert does.
Yeah, not this
Thank
week.
you.
Not this week. He's not.
Normally he does. So I appreciate that out of him. Good job, Jeremy Lambert. And we have, the person that heads up everything and just does an amazing job.
Well, let me cut you off right there. I know where you're going. Joe Pearl. Thank you.
I was going to actually pat myself on the back and say the person that's headed up everything for 5.5 years, me. But in reality, if I'm being, and by the way, the paperwork's coming today, Sean. In reality, if I'm being realistic for a minute, Sean Ross Sapp's done a great job with Fightful. Although I got to say, Sean, I was at a client lunch. I'm like 2 pints deep right now. I was at a client lunch, and Sean texted me and he said, "Can we go 10 minutes early today? Because I have the quiz thing."
Quizlemania, yeah.
And I was at the client lunch, and I'm like, God damn, I'm like 2 pints deep. I better go get a coffee.
Well, I mean, Jimmy, you can afford that coffee now because Fightful Select is officially now the first wrestling property on Patreon to ever hit 4,500 subscribers. Thank you all so much for that. Even though the list goes on, won't be today. I've got a bonus figure haul episode. We got shows every day. I broke some news today about the status of Johnny Gargano. So head over there. I'm going to have more on an ROH contract today. I'm going to be traveling a lot this week, but oh boy, I've still got plenty of scoops. A lot of good scoops that are dropping. Also, thank you to our moderator, Hannah, and our social media manager, Kyler. I'm thankful for everybody. We got to go one by one. Damn. I mean, Tim Travers says it's his dad's 69th birthday last Tuesday. He's thankful for him. Nice, first off.
I knew Sean was going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Of course. But we are thankful to you, Tim. We're thankful to everybody who subscribes to FightfulSelect.com. But if you want to have your question or statement read on this show, you can do one of two things. You can donate a super chat, which is cool, fine, neat. We appreciate that. But we encourage you to go to humperchat.com or humperchats.com and donate on our Streamlabs platform. We call those Humper Chats. If you have a PayPal account, it links right up there. And we've already got a couple of those. Van Twinblade says, first at an Ethan Page vlog, now listen to your boy later, Quizlemania. The wrestling community really wants me to have a happy birthday. I get to see Ethan Page in about a month at Toy Vomit. I'm very excited about
Cool.
that.
Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Good for him.
Yeah. Daniel R. says, in my opinion, I'd like to see AEW do a little more with Malachi Black. Your thoughts? Anyone you want to see more of at AEW? I do want to see him sort of escape the Codyverse, but I kind of like the idea of the House of Black being Andrade, Pac, Malachi, because they have similar trajectories in that sense.
I think there's more they can do with Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I feel like that he's kind of stuck right now a little bit. They've done the thing with the Bucks and him and Luchasaurus a lot. And I look at him and how many times have they talked about how he's kind of one of the pillars, so to speak. I feel like there's a story to tell with him. And one thing about Jim Ross, because, Jim Ross gets criticized for his gaffes a lot. Jim Ross is the one guy that will continually refer to him on commentary as Jack Perry. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And we've talked about how they should call him Jungle Boy Jack Perry. They should let you know what his real name is. They should let you know about his lineage. That's a guy they could do a lot more with. And so, but they'll get there. Like they got a 2-hour show. If you exclude Rampage, they have a 2-hour show. I think Tony Khan's understood. You can't tell everybody's story every single Wednesday night. But Jack Perry's a guy that they got to get away from Jungle Boy a little bit and get more into the character development with Jack Perry.
Chief says, when you see Danielson versus Hangman taking place, his prediction is TBS since Battle of the Belts is a 1-hour special. I think TBS debut or Battle of the Belts, one or the other, is the right call there. And Daniel R says, based on last night's conversation on the Fightful Wrestling Roundtable, who are a couple people you could see leaving AEW for WWE? Wardlow, I could see Brian Cage and maybe like a Red Velvet down the line or a Jade Cargill.
You definitely think about the aesthetic because Vince McMahon likes a certain aesthetic. Brian Cage, he's Vince McMahon all day. Brian Cage. Yeah. And that'd be a guy that he would target. Wardlow, I could see him looking at Luchasaurus too. I think that Tony Khan's probably figured out by now, because one of the knocks on them when they started was that they were too small of a roster, and then they started bringing on these bigger guys. And I think Tony Khan recognizes that, and it'll be hard for some of these guys, I think, to leave, given what you're hearing. I think it might have been in one interview where Tony Khan said, in WWE, it doesn't seem like you get a contract. It seems like you get a temporary agreement. Mm-hmm. That's something WWE is going to have to try to change in terms of the perception, because otherwise, how are you going to lure anybody? You can say all day long, hey, I'm going to beat you on the annual guarantee or the annual money. But if you got that little clause in there that I can cut you whenever I want, it's going to be harder to attract guys, I think.
When I interviewed Air Paris, AJ Styles' former partner in WCW, and he said, we were always actually told we had a 90-day contract. He's like, that's effectively what you have. We've got a bunch more Humper Chats. Big thank you, guys. By the way, check out that Fightful Wrestling Roundtable with myself, Shaquille Majuri, Chris Van Vliet, Denise Salcedo. It's going to have a rotating cast. I think you guys are really going to like it. We haven't decided if it'll be on Select or the main site yet, but the first episode is up. Dante says, for the Twitter Troll Defense Fund, shout out to Grapsity for that last episode, on point per usual. Grapsity is, I would like to say they found their footing. They had found their footing immediately. They were immediately awesome. Check them out Saturdays at noon. And Matt Reichel says, happy Thanksgiving to the GOAT, head of the table, Sean Ross Sapp. Got my tickets for GCW at Hammerstein. Does that Hammerstein show for GCW interest you at all?
If I'm being honest, not so much than any other show. I've just seen Cardona talk about it a lot. So
then that's a good thing. If you don't follow GCW like that, but you follow Matt Cardona and you see him talking about it, it means that investment's probably paid off for them.
I keep tabs on everything. So I always keep like high level tabs on everything. But there's only so many hours in the day. So like, do I watch every minute of every show? No, but I keep tabs. So I'm more than aware of it.
Yeah.
But guys like Cardona for sure, are very good at marketing. That's why sometimes I'll bust Matt Cardona's balls on social media and I'll say, this guy is shitty at marketing. He's got no revenue streams because the guy sells everything.
I also keep tabs. Then I submit them on my invoice to get them reimbursed from you. Sure. Chris Rain says, love the Gresham and Baron Black interview about Terminus. Really excited for that now. It's not too far from my sister's house, so I might have to get a flight and make it a weekend in Atlanta. I was hoping to go to that. I think we're going to try to send Steven.
Really? I thought you were going to go.
I was. The window on that and getting back to when I need to be back the next day, I don't think I'd be able to make it. But okay. Steven Jensen lives in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we're like, I'm so excited for that. Gresham and Baron Black will obviously be involved. Daniel Garcia and Bandito are involved. Check out that interview, guys. It was a lot of fun to watch them kind of bust each other's balls too. Dr. Six Fingers Esquire says, held out on getting Fightful Select for a while, but the summer of Sap, summer of Scoops won me, and I sing your all's praises. Thank you for everybody's hard work and heavy laughs. Hey, I always say it's one thing if I tell you guys to subscribe, but if you all tell other people, it means a lot. I really questioned if we would hit the mark that we had got to in September again, but here we are back over it. And
so what you're saying is I'm right all the time.
Well,
that's what you're saying. I'm right all the time.
I wouldn't go that far.
So, Sean's the kind of guy Sean doesn't want to put me over.
That's not true.
It's hard for Sean to do. He doesn't want to do it. When we hit 2,000 subs, and I had told Sean we're going to hit 2,000 subs, and Sean was like, "We're never going to do it." Then when we hit 2,000 subs, and I said to Sean, "Here's my next target." What did Sean Ross Sapp say? "No chance." I said, "We're going to do it," and he's like, "No chance." He refuses to admit that I'm fucking brilliant. And I see the trajectory of this stuff from a business perspective.
You know what's more brilliant? The person who gets the subs.
So here's how it works. This is how Sean and I
muted. So some stupid punk says, "Oh my God, I'm late. Thankfully, I'm on Facebook now and saw Mr. Van's tweet about SRS wanting to go early."
Yeah. Am I still muted, Sean? Am I still muted?
No, you're not. And Joker asked if we have any word on Asuka's contract. She's one of a few wrestlers I'd like to see in AEW. No, I haven't. And they can add injury time to that based on her being out. Continue to leave Humper chats, guys. It means a lot, but leave us a thumbs up on this video. Jimmy, what's on the list today?
Yeah, I have a lot. So I was debating, do I start with Rock or do I start with the third promotion thing? Because the third promotion thing, a lot of people, when I posted and said, bad idea, terrible idea, don't do it, a lot of people responded and said, I'd love to hear why, because there's so much talent out there that they think that you should. Let's start with Rock, because this was a big one on the weekend. So Survivor Series happens. And the first thing that we should say, or that I want to say, is WWE did not advertise an appearance by The Rock at Survivor Series. I'm sure that would be their defense if people complain. They did not advertise an appearance by The Rock, and so they are theoretically in the right. But as a viewer watching that show, it's very clear, I think, what the intention was out of the company. And when you see, so Sunday night as the show was going on, as Survivor Series was going on, I was checking social media trends and I was looking at Twitter trends and stuff. Scores of people were convinced that The Rock was going to be at Survivor Series. Scores of them, hundreds and hundreds of people were convinced he was going to be there, because on the pre-show, they started showing the highlight packages, promoting his 25th anniversary of his debut in WWE. The commentary was talking about it. And Vince McMahon, who's never on television, shows up at the arena holding the red notice egg. And this is right before the pre-show went off the air, that he shows up with the red notice egg. So everybody, logically, if they're on the fence about ordering the pay-per-view, there was Vince McMahon, who's never on television, with the red notice egg. What are they going to think?
Yeah.
As the show went on all night long, what did they do? Here's another highlight package from The Rock. Here's commentary once again mentioning that it's the 25th anniversary of his debut in WWE. There's Roman Reigns hitting a rock bottom in the main event with Big E. Roman Reigns is doing media prior to Survivor Series. Jimmy Fallon straight up says, there's a lot of rumor about The Rock at Survivor Series. Roman, to his credit, said, I haven't heard that. He didn't say yes, didn't say no. He said, I haven't heard that. But it came off to me like they were basically trying to utilize that in order to get extra eyeballs on a Survivor Series in Brooklyn. And I'll be honest, Sean, as the night went on, again, given the mentions, given the highlight packages, given the red notice egg, I thought for sure there's no way this company would be so stupid as to do all this shit in Brooklyn, New York, and not have Rock show up. And when he didn't, I thought, this is Vince McMahon once again whittling away at his audience. This is Vince McMahon once again being just unaware of the landscape.
That's when when some of the production got the wrong lineup and it had Big E, Roman Reigns first, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. The Rock's not going to be here.
Right.
You don't tease it. Hannah says every time they hit his music for the highlight package, people would stand up, then realize it was another video package all throughout the night.
Is that right? Live in the arena.
Video package, video package. And then just nothing.
Yes.
Just nothing. And I made it wasn't even a joke. Like, Impact got him to do more for Bound for Glory last year than WWE did. And people said, oh, but Ken Shamrock and it's his friend. And I don't give a shit. There's a 7-figure deal between Red Notice and WWE. What the hell?
Yeah. It came off to me like WWE wanting to remind all of us that they're connected to one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. It came off as them wanting to let us know that there's a connection there.
It comes off as, hey, remember when it didn't suck?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people could look at it like that because they do tend to look back to when it was great.
Yeah.
They do tend to do that. And I mean,
I
look
liked
at
it when it was The Rock and Steve Austin. Every week I get one of those. Van Twinblade says, "How dare you underestimate how stupid Vince can be?" Oh, buddy, I can't report it right now, but the original store or plan I heard for that egg was going to be way worse, and Vince being involved was like the make good.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean they were paid a lot of money for that.
I don't even know why Netflix would do that, if I'm being honest. Do you know the kind of money Netflix is shelling out?
Well, 7 figures is what I heard for this.
No. But what I mean is, so Rock got $20 million for that film, right? Gal Gadot got $20 million. Ryan Reynolds got $20 million. There's another movie coming out in December. I think it's called Up in the Air or something. It's got DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence got 25 mil. DiCaprio got 30 mil. Netflix is paying like theatrical release top dollar for this stuff. And sure, I mean, Red Notice, I think, did the biggest opening they've ever had for a show on Netflix. With all respect to WWE, I understand The Rock's a former wrestling guy. Do you really need to give WWE 7 figures for promotion when?
Well, I do understand why they targeted WWE, because that's you can't find a more direct demographic than WWE.
Sure, but they had already, by the time Survivor Series happened, they had already hit the biggest opening in Netflix history, and they haven't even had Survivor Series yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. I just didn't see the point. That Netflix is not profitable, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because of all the money they spend on content. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that and I people are always going to say, they have to do what they have to do. It's competitive. There's a lot of other streaming services. When you're paying,
I look at it running a subscription service nowhere near that one. And I'm like, how could they, like, I can't bring every podcast onto Fightful Select.
Right.
Like if somebody, if we pay somebody X amount of dollars and it generates 2 subscriptions.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to make our money back on that.
I think if somebody did their research and if they understood, here's how many eyeballs are going to be watching the pre-show. Here's how many eyeballs are going to be watching Survivor Series. Here's how many eyeballs are going to be watching Peacock. Here's how many of those are Raw. Here's how many of those eyeballs are the same people. They'd probably figure out we don't need to do this. We already hit our, biggest opening ever before we even started that promotion. I don't think they need to do it. I think Netflix wastes a shit ton of money. I guess that's my point. I think they waste a shit ton of money, but that's another conversation.
Well, you know what? People aren't wasting a shit ton of money here. Hannah says, also, the speakers in the arena were horrendous. We had no idea what was going on with the egg stuff. We couldn't hear anything being said. Blessing in disguise, Hannah. That's what that was. You were lucky to not know. Alicia says, just wanted to say the Wrestling Roundtable was awesome. Hope it's more than once a month. We have a lot of news. Right now it is once a month. We'll see how that goes, though. Jedediah says, hey, Fightful family. Just wanted to share with you all. My wife had our first child today. Malachi Finn Steele is alive and well. Congratulations to you. That is so awesome.
Life change. Life change. Good luck to you. Big life change.
Brian Bayless asks, what's Miro's status with AEW? He's mostly seen in tape promos and seldom on Dynamite. He's still there. He's still under contract. He's been doing a movie of late.
I also think that having him off TV after the loss to Brian is the way to go, or after the loss to Guevara and then Brian. That's the way to go. You bring him back. He's got more buzz to him. It seems like Tony Khan's got a good understanding of that. You give guys a little break.
Yes. Based Maritimer says, fan of the work you all do. Hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, or as we call it in Canada, Thursday.
Yeah.
Question for Jimmy. Do the Oilers start choking in more or less than 10 games?
They're not a playoff team. I love the Edmonton Oilers. If you're not a hockey fan, they're having a good year. They're like 13-5 this year, but they're not a playoff team. And the problem is in the playoffs, and I'm not a big basketball guy or baseball guy. In basketball, Sean, is it the same thing where come playoff time, it's defense first?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I mean, it steps up, certainly.
Yeah. In hockey, come playoff time, it's typically defense first. And the Oilers are built for offense. So they're a great regular season team, and they struggle in the playoffs when it gets tight.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think they're headed down that road again. That's just the unfortunate
reminder,
scenario.
guys, get your Humper Chats in at humperchats.com or your Super Chats here on YouTube. Some Stupid Punk says, oh, People are still just finding out about subscribing to Fightful Select with all the exclusive news, early industry-wide news, too sweet merch, exclusive streams and commentary. And don't forget that magazine. FightfulMag.com, by the way, guys.
Let's do that. Fightfulmag.com.
No, just shill that.
Does Camilo? Oh, he's got the overlay this time. Good. So no, you put it back on Sean. Put it back on Sean. It's more fun. Fightfulmag.com. The November-December issue of Fightful Magazine, available now in print or digital. Darby Allin is our cover boy. Sean's got an exclusive interview with Dominic Mysterio. Shaza McKenzie writes the Wrestlers Tribune. A great story about the late Daphne Younger, written by Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah.
Good article by Becky Lynch. We're working now on the January-February issue, and I'm introducing a new feature for that issue called the Fighters Tribune, written by current or former fighters, and former UFC fighter and Strikeforce champion Nate Marquardt is writing the inaugural edition.
Buy it
the
or
Fighters
else.
Tribune. There you go. Or he's going to stab you with what looks like a plastic sword. Oh, is that real?
Yeah, it's real.
Oh, good. So that reminds me of Crocodile Dundee. You've seen that, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But FightfulMag.com, that's where you can get the magazine. So there you go. I want to say one other thing about the egg, because Hannah mentioned the egg. So I want to say this. I was asked by people if the Raw ratings got an egg pop. And so I want to mention this. So Camilo, put up Media One. This is a chart from Brandon Thurston. I hope you guys can see this. This is a chart from Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics.
Great work he does.
He does do great work, and he posted this on social media. If you look at Survivor Series there at the bottom and see under 2020, there's a +6. Yeah. So what this shows you, this shows you the viewership for Raw after a pay-per-view, and how the increase is compared to the previous 4 weeks of the show of Raw. So in this case, last year, after Survivor Series, Raw did 6% better than what the previous 4 weeks of Raw had done. And so the idea was, in order for the egg to legitimately have popped a rating, Raw this year should do at least 7% better than what the previous 4 weeks of Raw had done, if you want to compare it to last year. And that was kind of how Brandon looked at it. Raw this week did 1.698 million total viewers on USA Network. The viewership was up 5% versus the median of the last 4 weeks. And what that means is the egg likely did not pop a rating. If anything, it was the Survivor Series fallout in general that increased Raw over last week. But when you look at the median over the last 4 weeks, the egg did not pop the number. And so there's your answer.
We got a few more humper chats. Rob Reed says $5 for step host Sean. Daniel says, I would like AEW to have more gimmick matches, but I'm not a fan of it being like it is in wintertime for War Games. Why does WWE do that? I'm okay with having a winter War Games. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, yeah,
so Royal Rumbles in January every year.
Yeah. I think that AEW is slowly rolling out those types of matches. That way, like, the first cage match was important for them. The first ladder match was important for them. Eventually, the others will as well. Some Stupid Punk says, I'm here to hurt my bank account and bother you both with a bunch of messages that will hopefully be entertaining. My friend, if they've got a $sign attached to them, I'm entertained by every single one of them. That's just the case, and we thank you so much. Sean Blanford says, hey, SRS and Jimmy Van, first time watching live in a while, so thank you to Jimmy for the Blue Blood wreck. It was an amazing experience. How important do you think?
Yeah, he checked it out. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I would love to know so here's what you do. If anybody's ever in Toronto, and if you want to go to Blue Blood Steakhouse at Castle Loma, which is like a castle in Toronto, tell them it's your anniversary. Even if it's not your anniversary, tell them it's your anniversary. I did that with my wife. They gave us a private tour of the museum. So that's what you do. Tell them it's your anniversary.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it says, how important do you think War Games will be for the trajectory of 2.0 brand going forward? I reported some news on FightfulSelect.com today about why Johnny Gargano is able to do that match. And it says a lot about how he feels about NXT as it pertains to his career, because he didn't have to do it, but he will be there for War Games.
Well, he indicated that he wanted to do War Games.
Yes, and Jimmy, I can't help but to think of the ECW Originals versus the ECW New Blood. I can't help but to think of the Millionaires Club versus the New Blood there as well. Like, I can't help but to think that of the similarities, but hope that it gets executed a lot better.
I want to ask you this is kind of a similar topic, Scotty Too Hotty. So Scotty Too Hotty, he posted on social media that he gave his notice. He's a trainer in NXT. He said, if I ever get to the point where I'm just doing it for the paycheck, it's time to move on. And that's kind of what he suggested. Here's what I want to ask you. In his note that he posted on social media, when he was talking about NXT, he said the black and gold brand. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, okay, did he say that intentionally to make a point of it's not now what it was then? Or was he just, without thinking about it, he just referred to it as the black and gold brand? What do you think about that? Because when I saw that, I thought he posted black and gold brand to let it be known what it is now is not what it was then.
Probably the constant changes. I mean, Triple H hasn't been around much. Even guys that they brought in, Kenny Dykstra, like he was Ken Doane. He was brought in to coach there, and he's already getting main roster looks at that. And the sad reality is he's younger than a lot of the main roster talent right now. When he's 35, but I just think that there have been an awful lot of changes, and some people don't necessarily like them. It doesn't reflect what they want.
But my point is, when Scotty Too Hotty made a point of saying black and gold brand,
I just think I think that was just a habit.
Okay.
Yeah. Some Stupid Punk says, wanted to take a minute from shilling for Fightful Select to subscribe or to ask Jimmy, when is Fightful starting its own wrestling promotion? Tony said there's room for another wrestling company. Remember, the more you say there's no chance, the more we think it's happening.
Tony said that?
No. It's saying that about you. And I'll tell you what, I had a show themed after me, and even that was too stressful. Yeah. I don't ever want to do that again. Never, ever.
No. Never. So I did it. I'm assuming that he's talking on an independent level, not a national level. I'm assuming. Yeah. I did it for fun. And I think I might have said this on the air, but if not, I told Sean, since we started Fightful and as Fightful's gotten notoriety over the last couple of years, and as people from my independent wrestling past have started to learn that I'm part of Fightful, guys I haven't talked to in 20 years are hitting me up. Yeah. Because they found out, Jimmy's part of Fightful. And like Cody Deaner, who wrote for the magazine, I booked him as a rookie on the independent level. And he found out I'm part of Fightful, and he wrote for Wrestlers Tribune for the magazine. That's happened. But yeah, like Sean said, like running an independent company, I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the business side of wrestling. I have no interest in doing it again. It was cool when I did it. I loved working with guys like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I thought the world of. He was a lot of fun. I got no interest in doing another independent company. So
let's talk about the talking point. Why it's a bad time to start a wrestling promotion, Jimmy.
Well, the first thing I want to do is ask you a question. Okay. So last Thursday, November 18, WWE had this latest round of releases. Hit Row and John Morrison and Slapjack Shane Thorne and other guys.
To specify, some Stupid Punk said he meant an international company, a global company, Jimmy.
No thanks. I'm good. Maybe like something digitally, like a video game or something. But I wanted to ask you this question, Sean, because a lot of people were asking this, and I don't know how contracts are structured in WWE. And so you might have more knowledge. People were thinking about Hit Row because BFAB, from what I've heard, signed a new deal like a week before she got released when they were called up to the main roster. So one question that I've seen a lot of people ask on social media was when they call people up from NXT, does that then put them on a 90-day cycle?
Yes.
It does.
Yes, it does.
So,
well, it doesn't put them on that. It's just the standard in the contract. That's why it came as such a shock when Malachi Black's was only 30, because as a standard, they get paid more. They've got a brand new contract that kind of resets. They get obviously more money. Their dates are different. Their travel expenses are different. They are then responsible for their travel expenses, as opposed to NXT, where that stuff is taken care of. Hotel and travel is taken care of there. And there was at least one when they got their contract updated that didn't have that in there. Like they still got their travel handled by WWE. They ended up getting a 90-day as well.
So do you think that some of the talent that was surprisingly released, like Hit Row, as an example, do you think that WWE intentionally called them up first, then released them because they wanted to have a 90-day buffer before they could show up someplace else versus a 30-day buffer?
No, and I'll tell you why. If that's what they wanted to do, they could have just kept them. They could have taken them off TV and kept them under contract for those 60 days, then cut them with the additional 30. That doesn't make any sense. I know a lot of people were saying that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, they just did it so they could have them sit out. They could have them sit out a year if they wanted. They're still paying these people their full salary throughout that period. So no, that wasn't it.
Okay. Interesting. Because like I said, I didn't know how contracts are structured, and when I heard that BFAB had assigned a new one after being called up, I wasn't sure how WWE does it. Do they make everybody call up, sign a new contract when they get?
Not only that, they would have been paying people more to just sit them at home. Like they could have just done that on their NXT deal, not had them on TV, then cut them with 30 days and saved a ton more money.
Right.
There's no right hand, left hand, man. I mean, they filmed Black Friday commercials with Hit Row.
They did?
Yeah.
Because I saw Heyman in the Ariel Helwani interview mention Hit Row. That's where they released. Matter of fact, I think he did the interview that same day.
Yes, he did.
And he mentioned them as like an entity, like a commodity that had potential in the company. And then, and there you go. Okay, so after the releases happened last Thursday, there were a few people that are known online, in the wrestling news world or in the wrestling journalism world, that posted on social media, and they basically said it's a great time for a billionaire to come along and launch a new national wrestling company because there's so much talent available. And when I saw that, I posted on Twitter and I said, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And I suggest that a billionaire does not do that. And a few people commented to me and said, well, I'd like to know why, because like there's a lot of talent available. So it seems like it is a good idea. So I thought, you know what, let's tackle this on the Listen You Boy, because it's a terrible idea. And let's talk about it. So two areas. Talent is the secondary one, business model is the main one. And we'll tackle talent first, the secondary one, and then we'll tackle business model, the main one. So 2018, when AEW came together, and it came together after Cody Rhodes and the Bucks did the All In show in Chicago. And Tony Khan was there, and he recognized, shit, they used the internet to sell at 10,000 seats. And that's when he recognized there could be a business model here. Back in 2018, my opinion, and you can agree or disagree, Sean, the popularity and the groundswell for that group of talent exceeded what you're seeing currently from anybody not connected to WWE or not connected to AEW. So, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho, I believe that the popularity and the buzz around those guys eclipses anybody not involved with any major company today. And it was a perfect storm then because all of them were available at the same time. Like
yes.
Cody and the Bucks and Omega, their contracts were due with New Japan and Ring of Honor. Jericho was essentially a free agent. They were all available, and it was just kind of the perfect storm. And when you look at their popularity at that time in 2018, the Young Bucks, in terms of their merchandise and in terms of their social media, they had started to become a mainstream entity. Like their shit was flying off the shelves at Hot Topic at that time. They were really becoming a big thing. Kenny Omega, who wasn't talking about his matches in New Japan in 2018?
Yeah.
He was the hottest foreigner in the business. Everybody's watching his matches in New Japan. Like he was a really big deal. Cody Rhodes was arguably the hottest non-WWE talent at that time. Remember, he had the ring and Ring of Honor and everything. Like he was a hot talent. And Chris Jericho, you talk about the noise Chris Jericho made when first he appeared in New Japan, said, I'll never wrestle on US soil for anybody else than WWE. Then he shows up at All In. Everybody's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Yep. Like there was a massive buzz at that time. When you look at currently, and I mean no disrespect to anybody because they're doing a good job, but when you look at currently, say Matt Cardona, Danhausen, Nick Gage, the guys that are developing a buzz currently, it's not close to where it was in 2018 in terms of the just the buzz and the momentum and everything that you're hearing. So the first issue in terms of a billionaire coming along in 2021 and launching a wrestling company, yes, there's a lot of great talent out there, and they could.
We got to mention Strowman, Bray Wyatt,
and
Cross,
I'm going to
Lee, Briscoes, Gresham. Yeah,
I'm going to, but in terms of when you're dealing with a network executive, and that's going to be part of my second point. And when you look at the talent roster, you could definitely fill out a hell of a talent roster. But when you go to a network executive and you say, I've got Adam Scherr, you can't say I've got Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
I've got Adam Scherr. You can't say I've got Bray Wyatt. I've got Wyndham Rotunda. It's not going to do the same.
It might be Bray Rotunda. I mean, they can use like half that name. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. But it's not the same. And same thing with like Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, great talent, definitely underutilized in WWE, would definitely be a part of anybody's roster. But when you're talking to a network executive that might not know the business, they're not going to get it done. Sure. And so the first reason as a billionaire I would not want to come in and do this today is because you'd have a hell of a talent roster. You have nobody that's probably going to sell a deal that has enough notoriety to sell a deal. That's the first reason. The second reason is the business model itself. And it used to be that wrestling companies made their money through live ticket sales and merchandise. WWE did it for decades. It used to be in the 80s, they actually had to pay for TV. WWE used to have to buy time on syndication and pay for TV. Well, you transition, 30 years later, and now the major American companies are making the majority of their revenue through rights. And that's WWE and that's AEW. They're making most of their money through rights. Yeah, they do some live events. WWE's got the Peacock deal. AEW still does decent in pay-per-view, and they do a handful of live events a year. But the majority of their money is made through television rights. And you got to remember, TNT did not come crawling begging for AEW. That did not happen. And Tony Khan's been very public about this. He's done a bunch of different interviews about this. He actually spoke to TNT executives because he heard they were interested in WWE rights. And he's done interviews talking about this. He did one recently with the Monaco Streaming Film Festival. You can watch the interview online. He said, I heard that they were interested in WWE. I talked to the executives. You know what they were willing to pay for WWE, Sean, at the time?
What's that?
According to Tony Khan, they weren't going to spend more than $150 million a year on WWE, TNT. And Tony Khan knew you're not getting WWE for $150 million. And he's able to convince them to give him a chance. And then they ended up doing a rev share deal with him. And then, things kind of came together the way they came together. TNT did not come crawling begging for AEW. And the Khan family was in a very unique situation that I don't know if another billionaire is going to be able to replicate, because not only did the Khan family have the Jacksonville Jaguars, so they obviously had television connections. They've got the Premier League soccer. They've obviously got television connections. They also got Tony Khan, who's a lifelong wrestling fan. He's got his finger on the pulse of the business, went to the All In show, did a shit ton of research, had a business plan, was able to actually present to TNT, and he had an actual business plan of how it was going to be done. And they did not make money in the first couple of years because they did an ad split, a revenue split. It wasn't until they were able to kind of show that they had enough of a base that they were able to kind of renegotiate and get a new deal done. If you're a billionaire coming in now, unless, let's say it's somebody whose son is like a Tony Khan, a lifelong wrestling fan, has his finger on the pulse of the business, it's unlikely that you're going to make any money. And the thing is, again, going back to Tony Khan and AEW, AEW didn't come to be until he had TNT in the bag first. And by his own admission, he said, and I have the quote here somewhere, he said, the conversation that started AEW happened when he talked to the TNT executive. And was able to get a feel from the TNT executive.
Yeah, you got to have a TV deal.
100%.
Because
100%.
As some stupid punk says, he goes, Tony Khan did say a few months back he believes there's still room for a third national brand equal to AEW or old TNA. I don't, unless unless a TV company may say, let's start one. But you know what? We've got a TV company that's getting out of wrestling right now in Sinclair Broadcast Company. So, I mean, it's not set. I mean, Wow Women of Wrestling is not going to be that. It's just not going to be that. And they've got a connection to Viacom. I do think that the WWE name, like Bray Wyatt or Braun Strowman, means as little as ever, though. Like Dean Ambrose, not a lot of people knew who Jon Moxley was. He popped up on AEW. Everybody knew him. Everybody was chanting Ruby Soho before she came out as Ruby Soho. So I don't think that's as much of a hurdle, but unless you've got a television deal, a TV deal, not a kind of streaming deal, not a pay-per-view deal, It's got to be the case, or else your progress is going to go flaccid. But Jimmy, I'll tell you what's not going to let you go flaccid. BlueChew.com and that code Fightful. You'll draw a house when you use Blue Chew and the code Fightful, because they'll be lining up at your door trying to get some of your erect penis. But you know what? It's not going to be because the mailman told everybody about it, because Blue Chew, which has the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, shipped straight to your door discreetly. It's not going to be because the local doctor or the local pharmacist is out there saying, hey, everybody, this person's taking the wiener pills, because you don't have to do that. You don't have to wait in line at the pharmacy. You don't have to wait in line at the doctor. You don't have to go to the doctor. You do the questionnaire. You consult with a medical professional via BlueChew.com. Then you use that code Fightful. You get your first shipment free. Just pay $5 shipping. Also, discretion. It's important. It's not just for people with a problem. It's for people who want that performance, that confidence, that enhancement. Man, your bedroom will be looking like Braun Strowman just ran through it. Titantrons and semi-trucks and ambulances all turned over. BlueChew.com, code Fightful. We have some Humper chat, which is pretty appropriate. And our friend Destiny FOMO is in the chat as she sponsored this show. Go follow her at twitter.com/DestinyFOMO.
What is that you said? You said trucks all turned over? Is that you said?
Yeah. Andrew says, I love that chart. My favorite pay-per-views are Rumble and Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank seem to get the second best boost other than WrestleMania because there are stakes attached to it. Andrew also says, sorry I turned your Q&A into a watch-along for 205 Live. It was fun, though. No, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. My live Q&A is up on Fightful Select now. Survivor Series Golden Egg challenges Jimmy to a match and says, don't besmirch me. Hey. And Joker sent Joker, I had answered this earlier, but I'll answer it again for you since you sent another Humper chat. Any word on Asuka's contract? No, but they can add injury time because of her being sidelined right now. Daniel says, talked about gimmick matches last week. I have an idea for one. It's a tag team elimination match, but there's no tagging in and out. Once the first person is eliminated, the second person comes in. That's interesting. I wonder. Yeah, I could see that happening in the future.
I can see Cody bringing back Lethal Lottery. Cody's really big into the WCW, NWA stuff.
Oh,
Lethal Lottery was great.
Some stupid punk says, all I'm hearing is Fightful Pro Wrestling. Let's go. To your point, I loved the wild card on the 1995 Survivor Series.
That was a good one too. Yes.
Baby faces, heels, loved it.
Yep.
What's next on your list, Jimmy?
Well, I want to talk a little more about this business topic because I think sometimes people look at things from a wrestling fan perspective and they don't think about the business perspective. And they just think, there's so much talent available that let's do another promotion and not thinking about how tough it is. And when you think about some of the other wrestling companies out there and how hard they've tried to get a weekly live paid television deal, and they haven't been able to. I mean, Impact Wrestling, they ended up, buying access to get them television. Ring of Honor was bought by Sinclair for syndication, and then they yanked it. MLW's tried forever. They've had to rely on kind of like little promotions or YouTube or whatever. The NWA, Billy Corrigan's got connections and money, and all they have is YouTube. Nobody's been able to land a television deal with a big rights fee guarantee. It's difficult. Yeah. And so that's why I wouldn't. They
don't even do YouTube. They go live on Fight now. NWA.
Right. And when you look at the landscape currently, and again, you got to put yourself in the shoes of a network executive that probably doesn't know wrestling, to the level of a wrestling executive. So when you look at it from their perspective, Raw right now is averaging under 2 million viewers a week on Monday nights. Right now, AEW Dynamite right now is averaging under 1 million viewers a week on Wednesday night. Rampage is doing between 500 and 7,000 viewers. Now, granted, it's a Friday night, not the greatest time slot, but they're averaging between 500 and 700,000 viewers a week. So if you're going to start a wrestling company, there's no guarantee that you're going to get that guaranteed money deal. And what night are you going to air? Remember when AEW was coming out, there was a lot of debate. Well, when are they going to air?
Well, they would air Thursdays. That's the sad reality. They would air Thursdays, even though Impact's on there.
But isn't there
Impact?
Isn't there sports competition on Thursday, like
Yeah,
football?
there's sports competition every night.
I guess every night. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's difficult, and I really think, as a side note, that not enough can be said about the value of Chris Jericho to AEW. And I remember when Jericho signed with them, and he made a comment about, this is the most lucrative contract of my career. He has earned every penny, because I guarantee you that TNT, when Tony Khan was talking to them, TNT didn't have a clue who the Young Bucks are. TNT didn't have a clue who Kenny Omega is, didn't have a clue who Cody Rhodes is. They damn well knew who Chris Jericho was. Yeah. And Tony Khan was able to use the name Chris Jericho in order to help leverage that deal and get that deal done. And going back to what we said before, with all due respect to Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt and whoever else, they can't use those names. TNT executives don't know Adam Scherr. They don't know Wyndham Rotunda or Bray Rotunda or Bray Wyndham or whatever. They don't know them. And so unless you have a guy like AEW had with the Chris Jericho, it's going to be very difficult, number one, to get a weekly live television deal on cable, even on a rev share only basis, without any guaranteed money up front. Very difficult.
Very
impossible.
I mean, it felt like 6-7 years ago, Jimmy, like that everybody was starting a wrestling company. Lucha Underground and GFW and TNA was on TV. ROH was on TV.
Yeah.
Like you had WWE getting a bunch of shows. Main Event landed on TV. Wrestling was like all over TV because it is usually cheap programming, and it does usually get good viewership. And I think a lot of TV stations are starting to realize that you can, like, wrestling fans do spend money. It's a matter of getting the advertisers to see that as well. Ted Gruber says, Jimmy, how comfy is that chair? SRS is jealous.
It's good.
I have like an executive office chair. It's just I'm in this thing like all day, and it's bad for my posture. So I use a gaming chair. That's just the better option. Mike Straw says, sad to see where ratings are, but is there even a chance for any show to ever sniff 3 to 4 million again? I doubt it. I'll never say never, but I highly doubt it.
So I do remember hearing that Nielsen was going to change. I don't know if they've already done it, but Nielsen was in the process of changing how they do the metrics, because there is a lot of things they need to look at outside of the live television viewership number. And I know that they do DVR stuff now already, but there's other things they need to look at. I mean, every major television network now has a streaming component. And
VOD needs to be looked at, because I understand why advertisers don't care about the DVR numbers, because people skip through commercials.
Yep.
But on the VOD, you can't skip commercials most of the time.
Right. And I'm sure I'm Canadian, but I know that Sportsnet in Canada, I can stream it live, you know, as a subscriber. I'm assuming that USA Network, you can do the same thing in the US. I don't think USA takes that into account. I think that you have to be a cable television subscriber in order for it to count. There's a lot that they have to change in terms of those metrics. And I understand, like you said, the advertiser mentality, that's still kind of important to them, but they're going to have to get with the times, because
Sorry, that was our audio playing on my speakers for some reason.
Okay. I've read different articles from different people in this world. I read an article the other day, and the writer said that all of their friends under 40, not one of them subscribed to cable. That's what the writer of the article said.
The YouTube stuff, the Sling, Hulu, that is all factored into to Nielsen.
But what about if they are a USA subscriber that watches streaming online versus watching cable? Does that count?
Streaming online? Yeah. If you're using YouTube TV or Sling or any of those things, that they have Nielsen plugged into those. Yeah.
Is that part of the live 4 o'clock Tuesday number?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And does USA Network have an app where a subscriber can watch Raw live?
I don't know if they do an app. TNT does, though.
Okay, because this should all factor.
Sure.
And I don't know if they do. I mean, for example, Rampage in Canada on Fridays, when I watch Rampage, I watch it on the TSN app.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, and this is another example, oftentimes TSN cable television doesn't air Rampage live.
Yeah.
But the app does. So when they're doing the metrics, do they account for the difference? Do they, I don't know. These are things that I haven't done the research on, but it makes a big difference when you're looking at the total viewership number.
Yeah. Average Jonesy says, what do you think about Master P starting up a promotion? It was something he was interested in previously. Well, I mean, I think he's worth a lot more money than Billy Corgan, but he bought House of Glory a couple years ago. So he has a wrestling company. But as far as I don't know how much he loves wrestling and wants to be consumed with it like Billy Corgan does and has for years across Resistance Pro, TNA, and NWA. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for seeing what he would do. Kieran George says, been out of the loop with the released ROH talent, but with Lethal now in AEW, will the Briscoes follow suit? They'd be a perfect fit. I don't know if they were at AEW last week. They were supposed to be there just to visit, I was told. But just to visit means you're probably talking to somebody there. Some Stupid Punk says airing live on the West Coast doesn't help AEW. When I talked to officials, they thought it would help ahead of time. They thought everybody likes live. Live is better. Realistically, I'm sure they'd love it if they could go live then do a replay. If I were AEW, I'd want to do an immediate replay.
Nitro
like
did that, yeah?
Yes. And it helped WCW immensely because half the audience was watching WWE at the time.
Right. That's right.
So, yeah.
You know, one thing I want to mention when they mentioned the Briscoes just then, do you remember how I used to always put over how I wish somebody would do the Killer Bees masks? And I think it was Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose that I suggested on a podcast. They should do the Killer Bees thing with the mask because they wore the same gear and their body type was similar enough. So FTR did it on Full Gear.
Yeah.
And when they did it, I was like, damn it. Like, that's the gimmick I wanted. With all due respect to FTR, it's very obvious looking at those guys that it's not the same guy.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the joke with the Killer Bees. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell had different body types, but we were supposed to believe when they put the masks on that you couldn't tell them apart. Can you imagine, Sean, the Briscoes and the Usos doing the Killer Bee mask gimmick?
I mean, that would be cool.
It'd be hard to tell the difference. You wouldn't really know who's who. I mean, fuck, it's hard to tell who's who with the Usos as it is.
CJ Lilly says, guys, any news on Alexa, Bailey, or Asuka returning? Because the longer they're off, the longer it gets me worried. I also hear Alexa took Nia's release hard. Any truth? I don't know. I haven't spoken to her. Also, we have somebody saying, SRS not quite. Streaming only counts if the commercials match the linear programming. The ones I mentioned do count. It is specified within the app that you can opt into Nielsen on those. So, yeah. And Kevin says, unlike the TNT app, the USA app doesn't offer live TV. Yeah, that has to affect things. Now, I don't know if the app does that, but the services that I mentioned do that. You when you go into the options, like it's listed there.
But you could choose to opt out.
Yes, you can.
So that means that you can view it. Sorry to cut you off, but that means that you can view it, and Nielsen's not going to count it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still an aggregate,
right? Yeah.
As far as Bailey, she's nowhere near ready. Asuka, no. We'll have an update on the site as soon as we can find out. And Alexa, I believe she had asked for time off, but I can't say that for sure. Dante says, prayers up for Jesse. Get well soon. Anything that people can do to support. I will find out. I talk to Jesse. I usually try to every single day. But we love Jessie the Buckeye. She's long been great to us. So hoping that she gets better and she's out of there soon. It was really nice to see the outpouring of support that she got from AEW.
For sure.
Some Stupid Punk says Trips is honestly likely the only one that could walk out, get his own backing and a small TV deal with a channel like Access or Spike. But with his daughter starting to train, I doubt he'll leave now, which is too bad. He's too good for current WWE. Buddy, Shane's dad owns the company and he still left. You never know. I will never, ever, ever pretend to understand the motivations of a millionaire. I do not know what they want, but he would. Yeah, Spike doesn't exist. Paramount exists. He ain't getting on Paramount. They got shit like Yellowstone on that channel. He ain't getting on there. But if Triple H went up to Access tomorrow, they would absolutely be like, yeah, sure, whatever you want, buddy.
It's never going to happen.
But it's never going to happen. Andrew says Cardona was an amazing signing for GCW. I'd love to know how he and Brett Lauderdale react to the heat behind closed doors. Cardona and Chelsea have both gotten so much heat for so long. They're used to it. Lauderdale's used to it as well.
And I'll add one thing. So, and again, this is a cheap plug. So the next issue of Fightful Magazine, the January-February issue, we have a feature on Matt Cardona by Steven Jensen. And I was kind of the conduit getting questions to Matt to answer, for the interview. He tackles all of that.
Yeah.
So he tackles, his evolution from WWE and deciding to go with GCW and doing the death match, tackles all of it. And so you could check it out in the next issue of Fightful magazine. All of it was Matt Cardona, and I can't speak for Chelsea because I don't really talk to Chelsea, but Matt coming as Zack Ryder and becoming Matt Cardona, he embraces all of it. All of it. Like, he's completely cool with all of it, and he embraces whatever heat he gets, he embraces it.
Throwback says, happy Thanksgiving Eve, guys. Who do you think will make an impact in wrestling soon? Who do you consider the turkey of wrestling? 600 minutes a year. Please do a good deed and be thankful. Oh, that's how many minutes are in a year. Well, Throwback does many of them. The biggest turkey in wrestling, Austin Aries, without a doubt. That guy's a fucking dope. Who do I see making an impact in wrestling soon? I think the Dante Martin, Leo Rush, Team Taz storyline when Darius Martin comes back is going to be one of those that bubbles up and explodes and gets really good. Jimmy, we got about 2 minutes left. What else you got?
Jesus, you're making me end early today?
That was what I said. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I told you I was at a client and I was 2 pints deep. Okay. So I guess what I'll do quickly then for the last topic. So on the Fightful roundtable this week, which by the way I thought was a great concept, so props to Shaq, I liked it. There was 2 questions that he asked, and I can answer the both of them kind of at the same time. So I wanted to bring it up. He asked, "Is Roman Reigns getting stale?" And he asked, "How do you feel CM Punk is doing now since his return?" And I can answer both of those basically at the same time. So I'll tackle it quick because we only got a couple of minutes. With Roman Reigns, first he needed to get established. And I know a lot of people might say, well, what do you mean? He main evented 4 WrestleManias. Just because Vince McMahon threw him through everybody's throat, shoved him down everybody's throat, doesn't mean he was established. He was not box office. When he came back post-lockdown, aligned with Paul Heyman, won the Universal title, beat Edge, which was a big moment for him, beat John Cena at SummerSlam, which was a big moment for him. Now Roman Reigns was established. Now he had momentum. CM Punk, kind of a similar thing. He comes back after 7.5 years, much like you'll see an athlete after they've retired and they come back, like a Michael Jordan or whatever. There's always buzz when they come back. And so when Punk came back out on Rampage, massive buzz. When he had his first match in 7.5 years at All Out, massive buzz. But once he's at that point, you've got those out of the way. And once you're Roman Reigns, you beat Edge, you beat Cena. In order to maintain and sustain that momentum, what you need from that point forward is the right story and the right opponent. And so to answer the questions, is Roman Reigns stale? How do you think CM Punk is doing? It's going to depend on the story and it's going to depend on the opponent. I think Punk is in a better spot right now because they did Punk Eddie Kingston at Full Gear. I thought that went over pretty good. Now they're doing Punk and MJF. If they do it right, there's a hell of a story. The promo work. Everybody's seen the photo of a young MJF at the autograph signing with CM Punk. There's a hell of a story to be told. When you look at Roman Reigns, so what's he got coming down the pipeline? Probably Drew McIntyre, maybe Jeff Hardy. Everybody knows those guys are not going to beat Roman Reigns for the Universal title. And that means I don't think a lot of guys are going to get into that. Maybe he's got Brock at Mania coming up. Everybody's hoping he's got The Rock. That might be something that people can sink their teeth into and will be able to kind of generate a buzz for Roman Reigns. Otherwise, again, now that he's established, without the right opponent and the right story, he's going to lose momentum. CM Punk, same thing. Without the right opponent, right story, he's going to lose momentum from that peak of his return. And that's my answer on where they're at.
Guys, subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. Mike Leotis wraps us up and says, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Love the insight on a third promotion. Like to see all the released talent find good, steady work, regardless of where. Don't we all, my friends? I'm heading over to do Quizzlemania. Some Stupid Punk says, last chat, I swear, wanted to thank you to the entire Fightful crew. Thank you all so much. Have a good Thanksgiving. Regular Thursday. Love you all. Well, I love you all. I'll be back on screen on Monday, I believe it is. So tune in. We got a lot of great shows coming up. Until next time, guys, we're out.